We're excited to see your faces this morning. Our next speaker is Dr. Shauna Collins. She is a family medicine doctor in West Hills, California. Through various trials and tribulations, Dr. Collins persevered through 17 years of education to obtain her medical degree from UCLA School of Medicine. She views her innate tenacity as a byproduct of her faith. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Collins.
Thank you so much. We're moving a PowerPoint up here, and in the meanwhile, I just want to thank Mrs. Blake, Mr. Blake, for having me here. I hope that I can be just a fraction of the blessing that you all have been with me today. And the young ladies who are dancing, my goodness, I don't know if they're in the room, but you brought me to tears. That was so powerful. The speakers that have gone before me to bring such valuable information, I'm just to the overflow, literally. So I have a tendency anyway to choke up, so that may happen. I'll just forewarn you. Again, my name is Shauna Collins, and whether or not we have technology to show, it doesn't matter. God has a purpose and a plan for each one of our lives. And I'm excited to be here. I just pray to God. I consider this my medical ministry. My message to you all and to anyone is that we are unique individuals. God has purposed us to do something for Him here on this earth. There's no one person greater than another. No one can bring your exact gift and talents on this earth as you can. And as a physician, I have seen such devastation that could have been prevented. The deacon said our people perish, or the Lord said our people perish for lack of knowledge, but that scripture was brought by the speaker before me, and it's so true. So my passion is to share with you how to get healthier. My specialty is weight loss, but if you are of the few, just 3 people out of 7 do not need to lose weight. 70%, according to the statistics, 70% of our population in the U.S. need to lose weight. If you are 3 out of the 7, 3 out of the 10 that do not need to lose weight, don't tune me out, because I have a message for you as well. Because it has to do with, I love being at church when I speak, because I can keep it all the way real, because it's all about God and Christ at the center of our being. Everything else comes through that, so I can just keep it real here. If we don't take care of this vessel, how are we going to answer the call? So if you don't have to lose weight, this message is still for you. How are we going to answer the call if we don't take care of this vessel? If you're on the airplane, what is the stewardess going to tell you? If you have a child sitting next to you, put the oxygen on yourself first, and then you can take care of others. So next to serving God, I consider keeping care of my health my first priority. Thank you. All right. No problem. So a little background on myself. The reason why I'm particularly passionate about obesity is because I was obese growing up throughout my entire childhood. I will show you some before and afters in the slide presentation. But I suffered with obesity. I was taken to my first fat clinic at the age of 7. And so there had to be a significant issue. And back then we weren't aware of any obesity problems. So you can imagine how significant the problem that I had was at that time. When I was a freshman in high school, I weighed about 35 pounds more than I do now, and I'm only 5 feet tall. So that extra weight can't go vertically; it just goes horizontally. I look like an ostrich. I consider myself when my weight is up, I'm quite round. So I had some issues early on, and I suffered with this my entire life. And we know that being overweight can be demoralizing, particularly when you are a child, because children have not yet learned to be compassionate and empathetic. So I was tortured and teased quite a bit. I was insecure. I had a lot of issues, and so I suffered with obesity. I had a couple of medical issues related to. Even when I went into medical school, I was obese. So I had my first child, and I topped 200 pounds, and I said, that is absolutely it. I have to do something. I had failed Probably over 100 diets. Every diet I attempted to go on, I absolutely failed. I went through a period of eating disorders, and I had to be admitted inpatient to deal with bulimia and anorexia. It was just really psychologically challenging for me. And in my teenage years, my life spiraled out of control, not just because of obesity, but because of life. Single parent household. My mother was widowed when she was 24 years old with 3 kids. Can you imagine? 24 years old and kids back to back. We were aged, I was 11 months, and my sister was a year older than me, and my brother was a year older than her. Stair step, 24 years old. I'm still figuring it out, and my kids are 10 and 12. Here she was, 24 years old, no education beyond high school. And my father was the breadwinner, and he passed away suddenly. And here she was without any further education, without any money. She went into survival mode, and as much as she loved us, I was a little bit left to my own devices. And I was a mischievous kid, so I wasn't one to leave to your own devices. In my teenager years, I just went wayward. Drugs, alcohol. I can keep it real with you, I'm assuming. You know, I'm in the church. The Lord is my witness, right? I can't give you a testimony unless I share the test, right? I just went all the way down. I dropped out of high school. I was doing drugs and alcohol at age 13. When I dropped out, I was 15 years old. I went from over 150 pounds at age 13, 14 to 90 pounds because I became bulimic and anorexic. And the police showed up at my school and pulled me into the room. Somebody reported possible abuse. I wasn't being abused by anyone in particular other than myself. And my teenage years were just wayward. You know, I got into illegal behavior and I was picked up. Why am I speaking about this? Does this have to do with health? You bet it does. We tend to compartmentalize our health. Oh, we have a heart problem, or we have a hip problem, or we have a back problem. Or we separate the psychological illnesses, depression, anxiety, and excuse me, those type of things. But we are one unit. And as a matter of fact, the word says we're one body. So if I'm sick, I can't be a blessing to you. And if you're sick, you can't be a blessing to anyone else. And sickness is mind, body, and spirit. We can have soul sickness. You know, the unsaved and those are grieving, and there's a soul sickness there. Psychological illness is going to affect the physical body, and the physical body is going to affect us psychologically. Somebody mentioned stress earlier. That raises the blood pressure, and it causes hormone increases, and it contributes to obesity, by the way. Depression contributes to these things. Obesity is associated with chronic pain. It's all very related. So when I'm blessed to be able to talk to the body of Christ, I can keep it all the way real. I don't have to just talk about the physical, you know, at UCLA or certain places. Kaiser, I was trained in family medicine. You know, these days you have to keep it PC, and you don't get to address the whole picture. But I'm so blessed when I get to speak to people like yourself, because we all know the real deal. There's soul sickness, and that leads to physiologic disease, and physiologic disease leads to psychological disease, and it's all a vicious cycle. It's all related. How we're living, not just how we're eating, how we're living in our life all together, all affects our health. If we're holding unforgiveness, that ugliness inside of us, it's going to affect us physically. So I can say things like that here. I'm going to move on into when I went into recovery from obesity. And again, if that is not your issue, stay tuned, because as you're hearing, it's all relevant, and the same tools that I used to lose all of my weight are the tools that we can use in any area of our lives. So I failed, like I said, diets every single time I tried. I can say 100, 150, I don't know. I would purpose in my mind every single day to only eat 1,000 calories. I'm only going to eat, fruit and vegetables and lean meat. I'm only going to do this. I'm going to start an exercise regimen. How many gym memberships did I waste? I went 2 or 3 times and paid for the entire year. And why did I fail? I'm thinking about this at the point where I had enough with diets. I was about 180 something pounds. I had my second child. And that's the weight I was stuck with after trying to lose the postpartum weight. I was stuck at about 180 something pounds. And again, tried dieting and it failed. And I just said, this isn't going to work. I had to come out of denial. For most people that struggle with weight and issues, obesity and compulsive eating or binge eating, diets don't work for the most part. There's many reasons why, which is, I won't get into the reasons why. I want to get into the solution. Once I realized that it wasn't going to work, I was still determined to lose the weight. So what now? What do I do if diets are all we hear about when we have to lose weight? What do we do? I'll never forget, it was the year 2007 or 08. I was at Northridge Hospital, and I was a medical student, fourth-year medical student, big as all get up. I was struggling up the stairs. I was sweaty, very uncomfortable, and I was in the cafeteria thinking about my diet that I should be on, and I just didn't have it in me. It was literally there in the cafeteria where I said to myself, no more dieting. I don't even believe I said it to myself. Those words were just in me, like it was almost like something had yelled in my spirit, and I do believe that it was the Lord inspired. And so I said, no more dieting. It doesn't work. Not for me anyway, and not for many people. So what am I going to do? I still needed to lose the weight. I thought to myself in that moment, what if I simply did my very best at every single meal, at every moment of the day? Just do my best. What is that? What does that mean? I decided I'm only going to eat when I'm actually hungry. I won't just nibble because my husband's nibbling, my kids are nibbling, and I'm at a social event. I'm going to eat when my stomach growls. I'm going to eat when I feel hungry. There's certain physiologic cues that we learn to recognize that are signs of real hunger. Everything isn't real hunger. Every time my stomach growls, it's not real hunger. Every time my mouth waters, it's not necessarily real hunger. I just may be smelling something you're cooking and I want it. But it doesn't mean that I'm actually hungry. But there are signs that that will indicate true hunger. I decided I wasn't going to eat outside of true hunger. When I did eat, I was going to stop when I felt that little bit of fullness in the gut. I was going to stop when I no longer felt hungry. When we start eating after a period of time, after a few minutes, after about 10 minutes or 5 minutes or so, you will no longer feel hungry. We should be aware of that. When the body is no longer hungry, it's saying, I've had enough. And when we eat above and beyond that, that's going to get stored for times we may need it in the future. We never need it in the future. We're not paying it anymore. Unless we're fasting and being proactive, spiritually, but otherwise, it's just going to store up, and it's going to do that every single time. So we get bigger and bigger over that period of years. I decided other little things. I'll never have a sandwich with 2 pieces of bread. That's a popular one I say to my clients all the time. Never have a sandwich with 2 pieces of bread. That extra piece of bread does not give any more flavor. It is functional. It's just to hold in the stuff. So use big lettuce leaves. Use big lettuce leaves to hold in the stuff. I tend to use them for both pieces of bread. I use the lettuce leaves. They're called protein wraps. Speaking of protein, the studies show that every calorie is not equal. The body breaking down protein, it actually requires more calories to break down protein than it does for fat and carbohydrates. And so the studies show that when we shift the composition of the food we eat, same amount of calories on the plate, a little less carbohydrate as far as the starchy carbs, the pasta and rice and breads and potatoes and things that sort, a little less of that and a little more protein actually will, same amount of calories, you will lose weight doing that. Make your plate half vegetables and then eat the rest of whatever you were going to eat. Don't have seconds. Wrap it up. If I want 2 of something, I'm going to have 2 of something, but I tell myself, just not now. I'm going to wrap up that second one, and when my stomach growls and I'm actually hungry again, I will eat it again. At that moment in the hospital, no food was off limits anymore. I considered myself a sugar addict, and I still like sweets quite a bit. My sweet tooth rules my diet large in part.
Amen.
But in that moment, I said, no food is off limits. If I live by these little disciplines, then I should be able to eat whatever I want. And I gave it a try, and you wouldn't believe, after over 30 years of being not just overweight, obese, which means obesity, the definition is at least 20% more weight than your body should be carrying. So I was obese from childhood, and after all of these decades of not being able to lose that excess weight, within 5 or 6 months, all of that weight was gone. Amen. And I'm telling you, thank you, praise God. I'm telling you, I freely ate whatever foods that I wanted. I have other tips as well. I always did strive to be healthier. So I didn't go gangbusters, and try to eat a cake all at once. And sometimes I went there. I'm human. Can I tell you that also? I am imperfect. I am so imperfect. I am human. There's nothing we can do about that. Jesus was the only one who was perfect, and for the rest of us, we do the best we can. I heard Mr. Blake come up here and say, We start from where we are. I heard that. That was exactly what I wanted to share with you. It doesn't matter where you are in this moment. You can start right now. And those of you who like I said, the 3 out of 7, the 30% who do not have a weight issue, since we're in the church, let me keep it real. There are things that we all need to work on. Are there not? Amen. There are things on January 1st, we had a resolution that we were going to improve. And here it is midway through the year, we haven't done it. Now why? We're not bad people. These things are overwhelming to us. We are seeing where we are now, and we are seeing what we need to be, and it becomes overwhelming. That's why we don't diet. That's very overwhelming. Restriction, I go from 2,500 calories to just 1,000. It's no sweets. It's very overwhelming. You may have relationships that need healing. Maybe you haven't spoke to someone in a very long time, or you're holding a grudge, with your ex or somebody. The finances, we've heard about the finances. There's things we need to clean up there. Not just losing weight, but there are a lot of thin, unhealthy people. I know some, and we need to clean up our health, period. There are smokers. This is no judgment. Like I said, I'm completely imperfect. It's not about judgment. It means that we can start today. And what I recommend, start where you are now. Do not wait until you can do things perfect, because that day never comes, because we are not perfect. What you can do is take a baby step. And I'm challenging each and every one of us to do that today. Think of the thing that you consider hardest, but you feel like you need to do most, whether it be according to your health or your dietary factors or other behavioral issues, addictions, relationships, finances, clean up our environment, our home, And so whatever it is that is grieving you, that you need to do, think about that thing. Take one step today. Take one step today. That's what I did when I lost weight. I took a few steps. One slice of bread I'm not going to do. I left alone the calorie drinks, and I committed myself to non-calorie drinks, even if I have to just drink water. I like the Crystal Light or the this or that or the Diet Snapple, but if I have nothing else, then just drink water. There's little commitments that we can make. A cutoff time. I know a woman who lost 30 pounds in 3 months because she just decided not to eat after 6 p.m., and she changed her full Coke to a Diet Coke. 3 months, 30 pounds. If we cut off that one slice of bread per meal, and most of us can even do more than that. If we glop on the salad dressing and the mayonnaise or whatever the fatty thing is, we can leave off a tablespoon or 2. So most of us can cut out 100 calories or 2 per meal. But if we only cut out 100 calories per meal and change a snack around in the day, choose fruit or or a vegetable instead of a bag of chips. And we saved 350 calories a day. Every 10 days, that's 1 pound down. And it doesn't sound like much, but every 10 months, that's 35 pounds. In 3 decades, I couldn't lose 35 pounds. In 30 years, I couldn't lose that 35 pounds. Now, isn't that painless? Those little baby steps, that's not like a diet. I can't diet. Diet to me is like holding your breath. I just can't do it for very long, just a few seconds. But I can shave off a little something. I can make small sacrifices. It doesn't hurt at all. You're not going to feel the pain. You're not even going to miss it. The taste is the same. Shut off a couple of calories every single meal. 40 pounds in a year, and I didn't even talk about exercise yet. I'm not going to say much about it because I want to give you some bottom lines here. But as far as exercise, I will say this. It's very overwhelming for a lot of people. A lot of people don't like exercise, or you haven't done it in 20 years. It's not that overwhelming to just walk. Put on your tennis shoes. If you walked in here, then you can walk around the block for just 20 minutes. You can listen. Today we have our iPads, our iPhones. Listen to your favorite, listen to your pastor who gave a sermon that you want to catch, or somebody else, or one of the ministries that your speakers do, the speakers that are here. YouTube video, YouTube video. The gentleman before me spoke of personal development. There's all these YouTube videos. My son calls it YouTube University. He said, I'm not going to college. I have YouTube University. And he is self-taught. He wants to build a computer this year. He's 12 years old. All of the information is out there for us. All of the information, it's never been easier for us. And so what I recommend is whatever that thing is, if it's not a health issue, and if you do have health issues, please even if you don't have health issues, make your health second priority next to salvation. Make your health, because without that, you can't take care of your kids. You can't take care of the neighbors. You can't do what it is you're called to do. Make your health top priority next to your relationship with Christ, even before your loved ones, because you can't keep caring for them unless you do. Take steps today. Before you even leave here today, send that person a text that you can't stand, that you just want to read them the rights. You've been giving them the cold shoulder for a year. Send them a text, I'm sorry. I'll talk to you later about it, but I want to say I'm sorry for my part. When we're getting ready to sit down to eat, stop when you feel that little pressure, and take the rest home or what have you. Do something today and right now. I'm not quite sure how much time I have left. I just want to share with you. Thank you so much. Those of you who don't have health issues necessarily, let me just share this with you. My background is such that I mentioned to you my high school years. I just destroyed my life. And I called out to the Lord at some point when I was about 27 years old. At that point, I only had a GED. I wasn't raised with the mindset of going to college. I'm the first college graduate in my family. Glory to God. It was hard for me. I was diagnosed later with learning disabilities because I got called into the associate dean's office and basically said, "What is wrong with you?" I was in med school and I was holding on by a thread, and at school it had always been hard for me. It always takes me longer than others to do the same program. A 4-year program takes me 5 years. It's always a struggle. And I finally was called into the associate dean's office and he said, "I think you have learning disabilities. I'm looking at your file. I've been doing this for 25 years. I know it when I see it." And I said, "No, I don't. I didn't want to wear that stigma. I didn't want the label." I tried to deny it. He said, "I'm not asking. I'm telling you to go get tested for learning disabilities because you're not going to make it." It was that difficult for me. I failed a couple very important exams in medical school, and he had to find out what was going on. I was diagnosed with learning disabilities, and as it turns out, I have a very severe learning disability, whereby when I read complicated material, see, I had gotten through the undergrad barely by the skin of my teeth, not like other students do, not straight A's, but some B pluses or whatever, but all night studying. I have a learning disability whereby the more complicated the material gets, the slower it takes me to process it. It just takes me longer. I have to sit there and I go word by word. I tried to study in groups, in these study groups, and I couldn't because they would read and turn the page, and I was like, and I had to play it off. When they would call on me, I'd say, and try to flip to where I couldn't study with other people. So I didn't know what was wrong with me. I just thought, well, education doesn't run in my family. I'm just doing the best I could. I used to put everything on audio because I can memorize faster listening than I can visually. So they put a name to it, and I have this significant learning disability. It has to do with, reading. It's a reading disability, which was very humiliating for me because we have pride, and I tried to bury it and I tried to hide it, but I had to come out and put myself on record because I needed help. I needed that. I was one of those students that needed more time on tests. I was one of those students that took longer to study for the test. So I was always testing alone by that time. But you know what? Let me tell you, and med school took me 5 years. I couldn't graduate with my class. I got through school 17 years the same way I lost the weight, just one step at a time. Tests. I had to retake them. I failed a test a couple years ago. Why do I share this? Just to let you know, when I was saved, I was wretched, and today I'm a split hair greater than being still wretched. But you know what? As one person mentioned, the scripture said, when did Jesus go off on that third person with the talent? Because they did nothing. Because they had their talent that he gave them, and he just sat there in fear. The others turned it over, whether you have a lot, whether you have a little. What's important is that we keep stepping. You fall down, of course you fall down. Babies have to fall before they learn to walk, and they still fall down. Just keep stepping, and I promise you, you will obtain that goal. You will lose that weight. You can quit smoking. You can make amends. You can have a better relationship with God. You'll be closer to the Lord with all that anger out of your heart. You'll be able to praise and worship because physically you'll feel better. Baby steps, daily steps, and you will reach your goal. Thank you so much. I love you. Thank you.
Such wonderful information. You all enjoying yourselves today? I'm enjoying myself.